This evening, we're going to review the history and the sun and its use in magic, Esbats and Correspondences, as well as the moon, its phases, and magical correspondences. And we will end with a meditation that revolves around the moon. So let's begin with the sun. Precisely who first revered the sun's daily comings and goings and influences is not really known. There are theories that say it was the Sumerians or the Babylonians. Most, however, agree that ancient Egyptians were the first to refine ways to read the sun. The ancients did know that the sun was one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Some saw him as the creator and life giver. Others saw him as the harbinger of happiness or success. And still others saw him as the center of the universe, omnipotent. Variations of his image turn up everywhere, from templates to tombs to scrolls to pottery, jewelry, and other decorative arts. Several sun symbols have been used by many civilizations. Some of these symbols are still in use today. However, their current meanings reach far beyond their original intent. So the symbol that you see here is a circle with a central dot. This sun symbol is so ancient that no one seems to be accurately able to pinpoint its timeline. Anytime it appears, though, even today, it has something to do with the sun. It is commonly used by astrologers to depict the sun's position in natal charts. It is also used in the botanical system to identify plants with the lifespan of one sun year, and as the Kabbalistic symbol for Michael, the archangel, who is associated with both the sun as well as Sunday. The quartered circle dates back to about 3000 BC and has been found in rock carvings and writings of the Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, Chinese, pre-Columbian American, and other cultures. It is also known as the sun cross. In early times, it not only represented the sun and its ultimate power, but the ruler of the land as well, since he or she was considered to be the sun's counterpart. Interestingly enough, the Roman Catholic Church uses this symbol in some of its rituals, but calls it the consecration or inaugural cross. The sextant circle is another sun symbol or sun wheel dating back to the early Bronze Age. The Gauls used this symbol as an amulet to get protection from their god of thunder. A variation of this wheel with 6 portions with another circle at its center and the outer rim divided into 12 portions is the Tibetan symbol for the world wheel. The Shamash rosette was commonly in the Tigris area around 1000 BC and was used to represent the sun, highest divinity, rulership, and the Babylonian sun god Shamash. The phoenix was also used by ancient Egyptians to represent the sun. The Maltese cross. Astronomers say this cross was used to represent the 4 flares that extend from the sun's corona during a solar eclipse. The winged disc is also popular in ancient Egypt and resembles the pattern formed by the sun's corona during the first stages of a solar eclipse. And the obelisk. While most of us already know that the obelisk was used to mark time, there's more to it than that. In Egypt, it was thought to be the house of the sun god and was sacred to Ra. It is interesting also that the Catholics chose to have an obelisk grace the center of the Vatican piazza and had it commissioned in the Egyptian city of Heliopolis. It was then sent to Rome by Caligula during his reign as emperor. Although we think of the sun as masculine today, this was not always the case. There are probably as many ancient sun goddesses as there are gods. They enjoyed equal time when it came to worship. Over time, however, solar goddesses seem to either fade away or be reinvented. Most of the early sun goddesses were associated with the sky, fire, and beauty. Many were also associated with mirrors, which often took the form of shields. One example is the Celtic sun goddess Bridget, who we see here. Her importance was so vast that she was canonized by the early Catholic Church rather than omit her from its realm. Commonly known as the Bright One and often referred to as the bright fiery sun, she was the most clearly associated with fire and metalsmithing. In fact, Christian myth says that in her role of appointing area bishops, she refused any candidates who could not goldsmith. So, if there were just as many sun goddesses as gods, why don't we think of the sun as androgynous instead of male? No one really knows. Maybe it's because men were at that time seen as the dependable hunters and gatherers, as protectors and defenders. And so it was and is with the sun. He's dependable. He gathers what we need: wind, oxygen, light, and warmth. There have been so many sun gods, so we will explore just a few here. Ra. The early Egyptians not only believed that he created light as well as everything else in the world, but that he came from the parents of earth and sky. Helios was perhaps the earliest sun god who was worshipped by the Greeks. Tonatiuh was the Aztec sun god. Enlil, the Celtic sun god, who was also known as the Shining One. So I'm sure different people think of different things when they hear the word Sunday. For some, it may be Christians and sermons and churches filled to overflowing. But the actual origins of Sunday worship are not only rooted in paganism, but were probably grown at the hands of the ancient Romans. The Romans created the names of the days of the week as we know them today. And the first day of the week they named was Dies Solis, meaning day of the sun. One of the reasons for this is that they believed the sun held dominion over all other planets or stars, and that the sun should be honored by ruling the first day of the week. There's also some good sun superstitions out there. For example, a baby born at sunrise is gifted with a higher intellect and long success in his or her life. If you don't want to die, don't stand where the sun can shine directly on you at a funeral. Never turn a mattress on a Sunday. It will bring you nightmares. In a Hungarian legend, single women were told to never sweep in the direction of the sun or they would never marry. So the sun moves through different phases all day long. Using this constant flow of energy, a magical practitioner can perform almost any kind of magic. For example, dawn belongs to the infant young child sun. It lends itself to anything having to do with fresh starts, beginnings, or changes.
And the morning belongs to adolescent or lover sun. The energy of the sun expands during the morning hours. During this time, the sun is very active and strong. This is a good time to work with projects that require building, growth, and expansion.
It is a great time to build upon the positive aspects in your life, to resolve situations where courage is necessary, and to bring warmth and harmony into the home and relationships.
Noon belongs to the father sun. The energies of the sun are at their full power at this time. There's the time to turbocharge most magical efforts. The sun's energy at this time is unsurpassed when it comes to charging crystals and metal tools. It is an excellent time for health magic. Afternoon belongs to the sage or the warrior sun. At this time, the sun's energy becomes receptive. This is a good time to handle projects that need clarity and resolution, but require a soft touch. All interactions with people fall into this category. This is a good time for rituals concerning the exploration of new ideas, travel, and acquisition of personal wisdom.
Sunset belongs to the grandfather, sacrificial sun. This stage of the sun is pretty much akin to the waning stage of the moon. Its primary energy leans towards working with conditions that need to be diminished or alleviated entirely. It is a great time for cleansing ritual tools or yourself. This time is perfect for rituals regarding getting rid of old habits and eradicating stress, confusion, and poor health. Efforts toward uncovering any types of deception work. Esbats are rites held for communing with the moon's energies and are regarded as the time for most magical workings, as opposed to Sabbaths, which are fire or sun festivals. Esbats are dedicated to the moon in her various phases. These are considered the working celebrations, the time in which to attract, banish, invoke protection, or to perform any other magical workings. Most Sabbath festivals are held to celebrate the changing of the seasons and gathering of the harvest, etc. The Esbats are held in honor of the goddess. The lunar year contains 13 full moons. These have all been called by various names in the past, but the ones that seem to have become the most popular are:
in January, the wolf moon,
or Björn, or Alder,
in February, the ice or storm moon,
or Sale, which means willow,
in March, the chaste moon,
or Nguyen, which means ash,
in April, the seed or growing moon,
or Huatha, which means hawthorn,
in May, the hare moon,
or Duir, which means oak,
in June, the mead moon,
or Tinne, which means holly,
in July, the hay moon,
or Cole, which means hazel,
in August, the corn moon,
or Muin, which means vine,
in September, the harvest moon,
or Gort, ivy,
October, the blood moon,
Negatal, which is reed,
November, the snow moon,
Beth, birch,
December, the oak or cold moon.
Lewis, which means rowan,
The 13th moon is called the blue moon. This occurs when 4 full moons fall within the same season. As regular seasons only have 3 moons, the 4th full moon between solstice and equinox, or vice versa, is called the blue moon. This happens at least once a year and always at a different time due to the inaccuracies of our modern calendar. The Celts originally set their year to correspond with the 13 moons, but with the coming of the Romans and their method of calendar keeping, this tradition was lost. The 13th moon was called Ruis, or elder. The blue moon is considered the goal moon. At this time, it is customary to set your specific goals for yourself and to review your accomplishments and failures since the last one. So let's talk a little about the 12 other full moons, starting with January.
January is the time to conserve energy by working on personal problems that involve no one else. It is also time for protection rites. reversing spells. During this month, the energy flow is believed to be sluggish and below the surface.
February is the time for loving the self, accepting responsibility for past errors, forgiving yourself, and making future plans. At this time, the energy flow is working toward the surface, good for purification, growth, and healing.
March is the time for new beginnings, breaking illusions, and seeing the truth in your life, however much it may hurt. The energy flow breaks into the open, a good time for growing, prospering, and exploring. Light and dark are in balance now.
April is the time for working on your temper, emotional flare-ups, and selfishness. The energy is flowing into creating and producing, a good time for change, self-confidence issues, taking advantage of opportunities, and realizing self-reliance.
May is the time for strengthening the connections with supernatural protectors and beings around you. The energy is in full flow, making this a good time for intuition, propagating, and connecting with fairies as well as nature spirits.
June is the time for decision making, taking responsibility for present happenings, working on personal inconsistencies, and for strengthening and rewarding yourself for your positive traits. The energy is in full but restive. The earth tides are turning, making this a good time for protection, strengthening, and prevention spells.
July is the time for dream work, divination, and meditation on spiritual goals and plans. The energy is slower and more relaxed, proper for success and prosperity spells. This month is the time to start preparing for the colder and darker months ahead.
August is the time for harvesting, gathering, and appreciating. The energy flow is slowing more, and now is the time of vitality, health, and friendships.
September is the time for organizing and straightening up physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual clutter. The energy flow is resting, and light and dark are in balance.
October is the time for inner cleansing. Meditate on the law of karma and thoughts of reincarnation. This is the time of letting go, justice, balance, and inner harmony.
November is the month of transformation. It is time to prepare for the coming winter and time to strengthen communication with the god or goddess closest to you. The energy flow is taking root and preparing to flow once more.
December is the time of spiritual paths. The earth's tides are once again turning, and it is time to reach out to friends and family, the lonely and the needy. This is the month of death and renewal. Spells should be aimed at endurance and provision. Moon worship is not only part of Wicca or witchcraft. The moon seems to have been worshipped in almost every culture, though not always in her feminine form. The world's major religions are linked with her in some fashion. To modern pagans and witches, the moon goddess is most commonly known in her aspects as derived from the Greeks and Romans. To the Greeks, she was the goddess Selene and later Artemis. To the Romans, Luna and Diana. Over time, she was given different names for each of her phases. The moon continues to be at the heart of Wicca and witches' spirituality. The full moon is the most commonly celebrated phase, but all phases of the moon are important to witches, especially when it comes to ritual or working magic. Because the full moon has a different energy, different powers than, say, the dark moon or the new moon, we plan certain rituals or spells to align with those energies. A spell for starting a new job, for example, would not be done at the waning moon when the energy is flowing towards endings, but a spell to end an unhappy situation would be perfect for the time of the waning moon. The moon influences the practice of witchcraft from top to bottom. Through her various phases and faces, the moon guides us through the mysteries of life. The moon is aligned with the element of water. She is the queen of the night. She is the witch's icon because of the important aspects of life which she affects. The moon presides over 5 primary processes and paradoxes of witchcraft: mystery and chaos, flow and evolution, birth and death, emotions and the soul, wisdom and magic. All these aspects are considered to be feminine in nature, and the moon is definitely feminine. In today's society, much of the magical allure of the moon seems to be gone. She is no longer the mystery she once was. We know the makeup of her physical form, which is rock and dust. We know she does not shine from within, but in reflection on the sun. Yet, she holds powers we as scarcely think about. That is different for us as pagans, of course. The moon's tidal influence on all the elements is outstanding, and her power when she is full to affect humans and other animals, even the weather, continues despite her scientific classifications. What we may know about the moon only increases the relevance she holds for spiritual seekers and mystics. She holds pure white light. The practice of drawing down the moon is one way we connect with this light. We draw down the moon to fill ourselves with the light that is the creative essence of the universe. The moon, to us, is just as mysterious and magical, just as sacred as she was to our ancestors. The importance of the moon in Wicca or witchcraft cannot be overestimated. For all these reasons, for the feminine energy she conducts, like a mandala recreating itself each month, the moon is always a source of creative energy. Here are some examples of how she still has subtle influences behind the scenes in other religions.
Easter Sunday, the most important Christian festival, is celebrated on the first Sunday after the first full moon that follows the spring equinox.
Chinese New Year occurs on the second new moon after the winter solstice.
The Jewish Passover is always celebrated at the full moon.
The Hindu festival of lights takes place at the new moon when the sun enters Libra.
Every month, the moon cycles through its phases: full moon to waning moon to dark moon to new moon to waxing moon and back to the full moon. The new moon rises at dawn and sets at sunset. Energy is available for 3.5 days after. This is the time to work on new beginnings, hope, and faith.
Waxing moon. This is the time for working having to do with building, accomplishments, creativity, strength, growth, learning, and positive transformation.
The full moon. The moon rises at sunset and sets at dawn. The moon is from 14 to 17.5 days after the new moon, and this is the time for workings that have to do with abundance, harvest, wish fulfillment, manifesting desires, and sexuality.
The waning moon. This is the time for workings having to do with letting go, clearing away, releasing, shedding of old habits, making space, undoing bindings.
Dark moon. This is the time for rest and to work on workings having to do with peace, deep wisdom, divination, and letting things die away completely.
Moon phases affect the tides. The moon phases not only affect the tides of the ocean, but of the atmosphere and even the earth, as well as people and animals. The range of the full moon's effects on the biology of living organisms, including people, is very great. There are documented influences of the full moon on living things. For example, the full moon triggers natural rhythms and bleeding cycles. Herbivores and humans ovulate around the full moon. Corals mate at the full moon. The height of the deer rutting season occurs around 2 full moons. Game birds tend to return to certain locations at time of the hunter's moon. Bears, caribou, and salmon all move at the full moon. And the full moon amplifies the electrical charge in all living things. The full moon also has effects on emotions and health. There is an ancient awareness of the full moon's effect on mental and emotional balances. This awareness gave us the words lunatic, lunacy, and loony, all derived from the Latin word luna, the goddess of the moon. In Britain, the problem was apparently so widespread that in 1824, the Lunacy Act was created, which stated that people were liable to go mad when the moon was full. In fact, hospital accidents and emergency visits actually do see about 10% more patients during a full moon. There are increase in epileptic seizures, bleeding ulcers, and hemorrhaging during full moons. Higher number of people with mental illnesses become highly agitated during full moons. Crimes of violence increase, and emotional biorhythm cycles tie in with the 28-day lunar cycle. The moon's gravity affects everything on Earth. Even though the moon is so much smaller than the sun, it is much closer to us. So she exerts over twice the gravitational force on the Earth than does the sun. Scientists list 4 moon tides, and I personally add 1 more. And that is the tidal pull on spirit, in which I place blood ties and emotional tides. So the scientific ones are ocean tides. The moon's tidal pull on the water of our planet is very obvious. There are 2 tides every day, one roughly when the moon is overhead and the other when she is on the opposite end of the planet. As she travels around the Earth, the oceans move with her more or less. The most extreme tides occur around the full and new moon. The orbit of the moon is not a perfect circle. Sometimes it's closer and sometimes it's a little further away. The closer the moon is to the Earth, the more of an effect it has on the water tides. The sun also affects the ocean tides, less so than the moon though. So its position and the Earth proximity can increase or diminish the heights of tides. The moon also has a tide that actually pulls the crust of the Earth towards it. The surface of our planet rises between 2 to 4 inches every day when the moon is above the horizon and recedes when the moon sets. Lunar tides also affect the molten core of the Earth, causing it to surge and recede just like the ocean's tides. The moon affects the body of air that surrounds our planet. The pocket of air around the Earth reaches about 60 miles. It weighs 5 billion tons. This is equivalent to 33 feet of water flowing over the surface of the Earth. The moon has a tide effect in this air mass. changing the height or thickness of the atmosphere every day. When it is overhead, the moon's gravity pulls the atmosphere around itself, sometimes by as much as 25%. That means that in certain phases of the moon, the atmosphere bulges out an extra 15 miles or so. This creates higher pressure where the moon is and lower pressure where it is not. Then the moon sinks below the horizon and our atmosphere shrinks once again. The moon's tides are not taken into consideration in weather forecasting today, and maybe that's why forecasts are often so wrong. In comparison, folklore has a lot to say about how the moon affects the weather. According to Ken Ring, who is an author and has written a book called Predicting the Weather by the Moon, he says, in their all-out zeal to rewrite our universe so our history would be more palatable, 17th century theologians made as much distance as they could between Christian society and that symbol of everything pagan, the moon. There was no room for the Christian God in the old moon-oriented science, which dictated that climate and weather were cyclically predictable and the hands of God was a non-issue. The most noticeable to humans is the monthly moon tide in the endocrine cycles of women, or the blood tides. And as Ken Ring has put it, except for a small solar pull on things, all tides, including emotional tides for humans, are caused by the moon. The 5 moon tides literally affect everything on Earth. So let's keep the power of the moon in our thoughts as we begin our moon meditation. Tonight, the moon is in her waxing crescent phase. The waxing moon invites you to grow and take action. While the new moon is focused on receiving guidance, this phase beckons you to act on the information you received during the new moon's phase. The lively energy of the waxing moon intensifies as it nears closer to the full moon. The waxing moon phase includes the waxing crescent, the first quarter moon, and the waxing gibbous moon phases. This meditation that we're going to share in tonight is for the waxing moon, focusing on activating your energy center and your solar plexus chakra. So now I invite you all to sink deeply into your seats, get comfortable, and close your eyes. As you breathe, repeat this mantra to yourself. I have everything I need to accomplish my goals. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3. The growing moon can spark a fire within you to give you all the energy and wisdom needed to accomplish your goals if you ask her to. Visualize a golden yellow light coming from the moon and connecting with your solar plexus, the region below your sternum and above your belly button. Visualize this light sparking a fire within your solar plexus area. With every inhale, the fire and the golden light grow bigger and brighter. Breathe in deeply through your nose and release the air through your mouth. Release all control and open yourself to the moon. Continue to focus on your breath, gently breathing in and out, in and out. Be open and receptive to information that she may send to you. Trust any sensations you experience as truth. Continue focusing on your breath, gently breathing in and out, in and out. Make a mental note of what the moon has shared with you, so you can write it down a little bit later. Thank the moon for her energy and for sharing her wisdom with you. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Slowly begin to come back to connect with your body. Stretch. Gently roll your neck from side to side. And when you are ready, you can begin to open your eyes.